Hello, everybody. I am Steve Gornson. I want to welcome everybody to this is one's going to be really my first of many monthly business educational webinars. And these business education webinars are really designed to help business owners and their teams to start working smarter, not harder. So hope everybody here is if you look down, if you put your cursor down towards the bottom, you're going to see the sort of like a small hand come up or Q&As and chat. So if you have any questions, put them into the chat areas, or just sort of any comments. You could put them into or put the Q&As, their questions into the Q&As, and then any comments or anything like that I asked for, you could put that into the chat. Sort of before we get started with everybody that is on the group, I'd love you to share, what are you looking to get out of this seminar? And what I like to do is, while you guys are sort of putting that up into the chat area, sort of tell you a little bit about me. Some of you guys that are on the seminar right now know a little bit about me. We've met in the past. Some of you, this might be the first time that we're actually meeting, but I've owned and operated the Action Coach office here in Jacksonville for the past 15 years, working with a variety of different types of business owners and their teams, from CPAs, engineers, general contractors, HVAC companies, electrician, plumbing companies, to diesel truck repair companies, local insurance companies, and even a local bank president as well, many, many more. But why am I doing this? Why am I giving away these free seminars? Why am I passionate about being a business coach? And it's all about helping business owners work smarter, not harder. And really where that came into being, and where I sort of finally realized that, was when I was speaking with my father, really just a week or so before he had passed away. And we were talking, he was an entrepreneur, and we were talking a little bit about his business, and I was sharing with him sort of some of the things that I did. And, my dad was really good at what he did, but to be honest, he really sucked at being a business owner. No one ever really taught him how to run a business, how to manage teams, how to be able to plan and do cash flow projections. And as I'm sitting there and I'm listening to him share these stories with me, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, why, if there was somebody like me that would have been there to help him, his life would have been so much easier. My mother's life would have definitely been so much easier. My sister's and my life would have been easier as well, or at least different as when we were growing up. And so that's why I'm so passionate about helping people work smarter, not harder, because the business should help you be the vehicle to help you get what you want out of life. So today's webinar is about conquering your goals. Is how do we stay focused on achieving those goals? So once we set them, how do we really get and stay focused? And that's where we're going to go. So with that, like to be able to sit down, and we'll start off with the first thing that we're going to be talking about here. So hold on a second. There we go. So what we're talking about first is setting our goals. So the process of setting goals really requires you to think about where you see the future. Where do you see the future of your business? Is it about, we have to start with the end in mind, because once we have that vision, it's the goals that we create provides direction, motivation, and a framework to take the action necessary to achieve them. So setting a goal is easy, but a good goal is tied to something that's meaningful, it's measurable, and it's very specific and has a very specific time frame. And the first step in doing that is, in setting an achievable goal, is to find out what motivates you to do that goal. So what purpose does it serve? And it really starts with, what is it that you stand for, right? So it lies within your company's values. That's the heart of your business. It serves as the foundation of setting and achieving your goals. That's like when the first thing I do when I'm bringing on a client, we do this this couple of day workshop, and where one of the things we do is we start focusing on what's the business's core focus, and what are their core values? What are the success behaviors that are going to drive our company, and how we relate to each other as a team, how we relate to our customers, how we relate to our vendors, how we relate to the world in general. Because once we identify our company's core values, this is really the fundamental step to our road to success. Because once we establish those values, and we have the answer to a very important question, is why do I do what I do? Like I talked to you before, the reason I do what I do is helping business owners work smarter, not harder. And it is that why that you lead with, and it's what you stand for, and what your company is all about, your product, your service, and what you're really promoting. And this is the basis. This is our first step for defining our goals and putting them in place to achieve them, because they have to be moving us towards something bigger. So the question I have for everybody here is, what is it that you do? Why do you do what you do? What's your core focus in your business? Anybody want to sort of share that in the comments or the chat? And I'd love to see some of those things as we move ahead. So so when it comes down to is, once we understand that, we need to sit down and focus on how do we internalize these goals. So they're not just, oh, this is a nice thing on a piece of paper. So a visualization is a great way to put energy behind an idea to help it come to life, to help it put the emotions into what we do. Oh, thank you, Margaret, for putting that up there. So securing private information for our customers. And that's everything that she does. Her whole business is around that core focus, is securing private information for her customers. Now, every goal that she sets has to lead to that core focus. So once we understand that, now we have to sort of sit down and visualize our goals, as I was saying, to do this. And for some people will put together and set up a vision board in their office, posted with different images, ideas, steps to communicate to the team, the focus, encourage very specific steps along the ways to achieve our goal. Or you may just choose to do your visualization really prior to introducing your goal to your greater team, because they need to be able to tie in to these goals itself. What I do is when I get into the office, I boot up my computer, for that minute or two that it takes, I just sit back, relax, close my eyes, and really come back and talk and just visualize, why am I going through this today? What is my day going to look like? And when I achieve that, what is it going to help me? What is it going to get me? What is it going to help me? How is it going to help my business? And when we sit down and we do those things, we're now bringing our emotions and our energy to these different tasks that we do every day. And because some of these tasks that we do, we really don't want to do them, but they're the necessary steps that we need to do to reach our overall goal. You know, if you think about an athlete doesn't like practice. They don't like doing wind sprints all day during practice. They want to get out there and play the game, but they know they need to do those necessary things to be able to perform like champions. So what does your vision board look like? I mean, one of my clients, what she did for her vision board was created it and put it into her screensaver. So at times these visuals are always shooting at her of what she wants out of life, what she wants her business to look like. So I hope that makes sense for a lot of people out there. So the next thing that we need to do after creating our core focus, we need to create our values for the company and a mechanism for how we're going to internalize and visualize those goals and bring emotions to them. Is the biggest question that I get a lot of times is, I have so many things I need to get done. There's so many things that I have to accomplish, but I don't know where to begin. What should I start on? So there's a concept that a lot of people are already aware of. It's the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. There's a concept that all eyes on, there's that people sort of naturally break into two groups. There's the top 20%, of the achievers versus the 80% of the non-achievers. Or if you sit down and look at it, is when it comes to your revenue in your business, is 80% of your revenue comes from your top 20% of your customers. That's the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. So we could apply this rule to goal creation. So if you're having a difficult time trying to decide on what goals would be the most productive, is go in there and create a list of 10 different goals, right? And then from there, look at and say, what would, if I accomplished, what two, if I accomplished, would have the biggest impact on my business and my life? Because now we've just used that Pareto principle. So those two is your 20%. Now, if you want, you could sit down and take of the 8, 20% of 8 is like 1.6, is pick maybe 1 or maybe 2 more. What would be the next 2 or 1 that would have the greatest impact on me and my business if I were to accomplish those goals? So now we have 3 to 4 goals that are going to have the greatest impact to our business and our life. So it's a simple exercise. Please try it. If you have any questions or need any clarifications for it when you're out there after the webinar trying it, feel free to give me a call or connect with me, email me or whatnot on that. I'll be glad to help you on that. So once we go ahead and we decide on what are our 2 goals, the next step that we have is there's different types of goals that we have that we all heard of. There's long-term goals, there's short-term goals that we need to set when building a strategy for our future. You know, and it's important to have a plan in place that have both long-term goals and short-term goals. Now, long-term goal is going to be anywhere from 3 to 5 years ahead, and then really should be created based on the company's big picture objectives, or there are some people like to use the term BHAG, that big, hairy, audacious goal. Then we have short-term goals that, on the other hand, are going to be anywhere from 90 days to a year, less than 3 years, and they should always be used or working towards supporting our long-term goals. So when I'm working with my clients, we're setting 90-day goals that will help us reach our 1-year goal, and our 1-year goal is really to help us move us towards our 3 and our 5-year goal. And sometimes we'll look at it and try to take a 10-year goal, but it's really hard to focus right now, because if you think about what the world looked like 10 years ago and what it's going to be looking like 10 years from now, or even 5 years from now, we're moving so fast that it's hard to do it. But as long as you keep that vision and update that 5-year vision or 3-year vision every year, it comes into clarity. But the shorter the goal, the more clarity and more specific that you need to be. So let's take a closer look at each of these types of goals. So when we're thinking on our long-term goals, the basics here should be, again, to align with our company's mission and our core focus, and really reflect upon our purpose. This is again, the big picture goal that sets the course for our future. So generally, a long-term goals involves maybe 4 major areas of the company. It's going to evolve around our service, a social aspect, profit, and our growth. So the first one, services, is relating to our increasing customer service satisfaction or customer retention. Then there's some long-term goals about how do we want to give back to the community. One of my clients that I've been working with for about 10 years right now is Earthworks. And one of the ways that they give back to the community is they partnered with Caddyshack, which is a wildlife for cats. It's a place where big cats, they have no homes, and they go ahead and they take care of them there. So Earthworks built a nice pond for these big cats or these tigers out there, so they won't have to deal with the heat. And then they're also tying them into a lot of their marketing that they do, so they can promote that organization as well. And the next one is the profit. Is what profit level are we looking for in our business? Do we want to have $100,000 in profit at the end of the month, quarter, year, however way we're looking for it? And then growth. what areas of growth? How many team members do we need? How many locations are we going to have? You know, what does this business look like? What's our long-term growth of our business? So the question that I have is, do you have a long-term goal? Because if you don't have a long-term goal, what happens is you're focusing on all the short-term stuff. And it's like the short-term goal, when I'm start with a client, we don't focus on long-term goals because they're stuck in the mud and we're just trying to help them get out of the mud, and they can't think a year down the road, just sort of, how do I solve these problems and get out of this chaos, go from chaos to control. But once we get that control of the business, now we have to start putting in and thinking long-term within that business. So we need to have those long-term goals because we need to be working towards something instead of moving away from something. So once we have our long-term goals in place, the next step is to figure out how we're going to get there with our short-term 90-day goals. So while our long-terms are, again, as I've been saying, are broad, sort of a higher purpose, the short-term goals should be specific and designed to be executed within a shorter time frame. You know, these goals also support the overall reaching goals, and then also help you to measure your progress along the way as you accomplish it. So do you have a strategy for setting short-term goals? Like I said, with my clients, as I pulled them out of their businesses for a day into a full-day workshop that I call Growth Club, and where they will sit down and within an hour and a half create their 90-day plan. A lot of prep work goes into it, but within an hour and a half, they could have a 90-day plan, detailed 90-day plan finished. So once we work on their short-term goals, the goals itself have to be SMART. We call it SMART planning. And most of people have heard the acronym before of SMART goals. There's nothing new under the sun, but we need to have a strategy and of working with actionable items, and they have to be specific. There has to be a very specific time frame. There has to be a strategy for measuring how close we are getting to our goal. Are we seeing progress along the ways and whatnot? So the SMART goals is an acronym with the S standing for specific. Is what is your specific goal? The next one is measurable. Is how do we measure our progress, or how do we know that we're going to complete the goal? So a lot of times, you know, with my clients, it's like, oh, okay, what is my goal? I want to increase my profitability in my office. That's not a SMART goal. It's a great idea, but I want to increase my profits to over $100,000 by the end of this year, or by the end of the quarter, however, depending on the size of your business and whatnot. See, that is specific, and it's also measurable, because if I just say I want to increase my profits, if I increase my profits by a penny, I've hit my goal. Didn't accomplish what you wanted, but you hit your goal. Then the next step is really important. Is this goal achievable? You know, what am I going to gain by achieving this goal? Can I actually do it? Does it make, it's like having $100,000 to have profitability in this month might not be that achievable or realistic, but it might be for the year or the quarter. But really the most important is the R, is the relevance, is what does achieving this goal mean for my business? It's sort of tied to the why. Why am I going through and doing all these steps of this goal? Because if we understand the relevance of this goal, achieving this goal to my big picture and my big why, we're more apt to stay focused on that goal. Hope that makes sense to everybody, right? All right, so now let's start looking at putting our action plan into place. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to pop them into the questions itself. There was a question that somebody had that just sent me was, how do I know what goals to sort of set in my business? A lot of some of the prep work that we do in the 90-day planning is I have my clients list out what are the issues that are going on in the business? Where are the bottlenecks going on in the business right now? And then once we sort of sit down and we analyze those, we then sit down and take a look at, okay, what do I need to start doing, stop doing or what's working well in my business. And once we analyze those two lists, we can go ahead and now determine what are the 2 to 3 goals that we need to be working on to overcome those bottlenecks and obstacles. So I hope that answers your question. All right, so next we need to create visibility. What do I mean by creating visibility? So when we share, staying on track with our goals can be a challenge. It's really easy because there's always a squirrel that pops up and we start chasing you know what? I'm going to go back. And Margaret had I sort of skipped ahead and I didn't give you what the T stood for in the SMART goal. Sorry about that. Is the T stands for time frame, because if you know, one of my first clients, they said they wanted to be a $5 million company. That's specific. It's measurable. It was attainable, but it didn't have a time frame. So it wasn't a goal. It was more of a dream. It was a good idea. But then we say, okay, I want to be a $5 million company in 5 years. And they were doing about $1 million at that point. So then now we know, okay, what do I need to do in 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years to be able to be that $5 million company? So sorry about skipping that. Hope that answers your question right there. Thank you, Margaret, for helping me out there. All right, so let's talk about, again, get back onto that visibility, because visibility is talking about sharing your goals with others, because what that does is it gives you accountability, it gives you clarity, and creates connection. So when we're creating visibility, it's meaning adding another level of accountability, which in turn increases the motivation. When I started my business 15 years ago, there was just me by myself, and the person that I would go to and share my goals with was my wife. Every week I share, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm going to do next week, and I came back and I reported it, and it helped me stay on track. But then after that, I partnered with another action coach in another city, and we started to be accountability partners to each other. And each week we were sharing our goals with each other and whatnot. And then I took it to the next level, and then I hired myself a coach that not only helped me accountable, but it helped me to actually break through and you know, overcome some of my limiting beliefs that were sort of keeping me from growing my business and whatnot itself. So what we see is it gives us accountability, because sharing ideas with each other makes you more accountable when you create an audience, because now you got to step up. It's like, hey, the first thing you want to do when you set a goal is, hey, this is what I'm going to do, because now you've just put yourself out there. But also by expressing it, it gives you clarity, because you have to now be more specific and you start seeing your goals outside of yourself. And that clarity allows you to gauge if you need to modify them or help you to be able to really know what you need to do to work on it. But also by sharing it with others sort of creates a connection where you're growing in your social circle and including a lot of like-minded business people that can also contribute to the progress itself. And that's part of why the growth club that we do is not only is where all my clients are coming together, is they're going to share their wins and their losses and help each other, because they're all working on the same goals. They just have different businesses and ways that they're executing those goals. But it's a great way of learning from other people themselves. So, all right, so let's move on. Anybody else have any other questions on that? So once we have, all right, we're good. I think we're good here. So the next about creating and accomplishing and reaching our goals is we have to get into a rhythm. And it's because once we have this clear vision for the direction of our company, it's vital for our successes that we share it with our team, inform them, and get them to be on board to execute our vision. Because if it's stuck in our head, it's not going to help. It's not going to help it. They're not going to understand why you're asking them to do the things that you're asking from them. So one way to do this is creating an operating rhythm cadence to monitor how you're tracking your progress to your goals with your team, with your accountability partners or whatnot. So usually weekly or monthly check-ins are great ways to review progress and evaluate your short-term goals with team members that are responsible, and a lot of times is, when I'm working with my clients we're coaching about every week or every other week, it's, are you on track or off track of your goals? If you're off track, what are the issues that are keeping you off track? And then we try to look at solutions. So every meeting that we're having is solution-based to help you to unblock those bottlenecks that's keeping you from achieving those goals that you are. But it's a level of transparency when you're doing that with your team and having those same conversations. Are they on track? Are they off track on reaching the goals that they need to do? It keeps them engaged and motivated by offering them a clear picture, one, about how their daily tasks are related to the bigger picture, whether it's your quarterly goal, your annual goal, or that big goal itself. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody there. So the question is how do you engage your team regularly? And if you're working by yourself, who do you have as your accountability partner, whether it's another colleague, a spouse? You should try somebody in there to be able to get into that rhythm. For like when I first started with my wife, we did that on a weekly basis, and it helped me focus instead of just wandering around trying to do what I needed to do. So the next step is we need to align our goals. We need to align these short-term goals with our big pictures and making sure all the goals complement each other and are not going in opposite directions. So, we're devoting our time and our money towards to achieving all these goals. So if we have a big goal that's focusing on customer service, I hate the word customer service. I like using the word happy customers. A lot of people have heard me say that before. So if we're working on trying to create more happy customers, we may need to allocate more funds to hire real people to answer our phones or to be able to serve our customers, instead of having some automated answering machine. So we need to make sure that we're aligning our resources with our goals. And that might also mean that our plans and our activities that we're doing, some of those things have to take a back seat to our bigger goals that we're trying to accomplish. Hope that sort of makes sense, because sometimes we're pulling ourselves off track, or we're going after a squirrel that's taking us away from what our real core focus of what we're trying to achieve. So it's really the more attention that we give our goals, the better the likelihood that we are going to achieve them. And we have to be aware when setting our goals that we don't contradict ourselves. And I sort of talked about that a little bit before, is, if you have several teams working on separate concurrent goals, you have to make sure that the teams are communicating to ensure that the goals don't end up running counter to one another. So if, like I said, if the company overall is under the gun to cut costs, and so we say, okay, it comes down is, okay, so we have to lay off some people. But if we're trying to increase our customer service, we're trying to increase our revenue goals by having less employees, it's going to add more frustration, so they're counteracting to each other. So we need to make sure that we have a good picture of all the goals to make sure that they're not running counter to our big goal. So rule of thumb is to create sort of a roadmap of our goals, with making sure that it's not going against what the overall objectives are. So what's a roadmap? So this roadmap is a visual charting of our objectives and the steps necessary to achieve them. So each department within your company, whether it's sales and marketing, operations, or your finance areas, are typically has a very targeted goal that supports the overall writing of an organization, separate from each of the other departments. So it's a good idea to sort of chart to and to create a chart to house all those different departmental goals together in a visual format that makes none of your goals run counter to another. Make sure that they're all, going back to what I was saying before, that they're all aligned. So so this is a process performance matrix to make sure that we're all running together. So a pie chart is a simple way to display and track, some of our different goals that we have in the different departments, and make sure that they all align with each other and our overall objective. So what do we put within this pie chart? So there's really three main areas that we sort of talk about. So one is sort of our growth strategy perspective, or is looking at our customer satisfaction levels, our employee skill levels and education, or what's our employee turnover. And that could sort of be one little part of the pie. The next one is maybe from our customer's perspective, is what's our customer satisfaction level? What's our customer retention level? What's our brand strength? How does the world see us? Those are things that we need to sort of look at. And then the last one is our financial perspective. Is, what's the revenue goals, our expenses, our profitability goals. And we all need to make sure that each of those three main components are really all tied in together. And then the fourth one is our internal processes perspective. So, how do we keep our inventory if your company has inventories, or how do we process our orders, and do we make it simple for our customers to buy from us? How do we fulfill, what's our process for fulfilling our orders, or making our products, or delivering our services? How do we manage quality control? So those should be the four different sections of our pie, and make sure that they sort of all align to the one big goal and our objective for the company. So one of the last steps that we're going to talk about here today is measuring our goals with the milestones. Because what are milestones? The milestones are checkpoints that mark or measure the steps along the way to achieving a goal. So such milestones for your goals allow you the visibility to determine whether you're on track or off track within your goals. And a lot of times what I'm doing with my clients on 90-day goals is we set up a milestone of where should we be at the end of each month. So if I have a certain goal at the end of the quarter, boom. So where do I need to be at the first month, second month, and the last month is obviously reaching the goal. But we know what we need to accomplish in there, and it helps us to be more focused on that. But we also need to sort of sometimes engage our team in those mile markers, because they're the ones that are trying to do it. So if we say, okay, this is our overall goal, so where do we need to be at the end of the first month, second month, and the third month along the way? Because now they're taking in and they're letting you know, and now they have a little bit more buy-in. So these the milestones are there to reveal our progress that made during the course of achieving this goal. But the thing I want to remind us is that when we hit these little milestones too, we need to not to forget to celebrate these milestones along the way, right? We're going to come back and we'll talk about that a little bit. So we need to be open to change when we're setting our goals. Because the one thing that I could tell you, as soon as you create your plan and you set your goals, your plan is wrong, because things change. We're setting our plan and our goals or we're creating our plan sort of in a vacuum. But as soon as we get out and we release it and say, oh, we start executing our plan, stuff happens. Stuff that the obstacles come in our way. And the question is are we going to focus on this obstacle, or focus on our big picture, or where we need to be at the end of the quarter? So when we start having this visibility, and when it comes to we start tracking and measuring our goals, it means we have to start adjusting these goals along the way, because we get these bottlenecks. Sometimes we have to make a little bit of a curve, because reaching your goal isn't a straight line. It's an up and down progress. We make progress, we step back, we do a couple of steps forward, but we're always moving towards our goal. But the thing is not to get frustrated when we have to make this little detour, right? It's just part of executing and delivering our plan. And the one thing that we always see is that change is hard. Especially when we devoted so much time into energy in creating this plan and really achieving something, and we really want it, but following a goal to no achievable end or just giving up altogether, it's not really an option when you have a long-term goal in place, right? So we have to sort of sit down and regroup with our team, realign the goal or maybe the milestones along the way or how we're executing to get to that end goal. It keeps the energy motivating because, I mean, sometimes one of my clients, we set a 90-day goal, and halfway through the beginning of the goal, there was like one area that they didn't really think about that they had to do to be able to achieve their goal. But they wouldn't have really figured that out unless they started working on this progress. So they had to stop their plan, work on something else that took the rest of the quarter, and then now be able to finish up and reach that goal probably in the next quarter, and then in the 90 days coming up. So, but they wouldn't have been able to sort of sit down and really realize that unless they started working towards the goal and said, hey, there's something wrong here. And then once we figured out what that was, we were able to do this little end around to be able to get to our overriding goal. Because, like I said, as soon as we start a plan, it's wrong, we're going to fail, and it's okay to not reach a goal. Every business experiences failure, but even when the goals are in place and we've done all the tracking and we do all the adjustments for the goal, but sometimes it doesn't serve this larger purpose, or the goal doesn't perform as planned, or there's some obstacle that comes in the way, like I was just sharing with my other client. So we need to stay focused on our big picture, and that provides really a solid foundation to address our failure head on. Because failure really lies in the opportunity to learn from our mistakes. Like the story that I was saying, it was the client that they started going down this path, and it was like, no, we can't do this. So we had to do something different. So it wasn't a failure that they didn't reach their goal. They had to do something else first to be able to do it. And that was because they were able to do that because they were focused on the end goal of where they needed to be. The plan, it doesn't have to work out the way it is, right? We need to be able to make adjustments. So when we stay on the big picture, it provides us that solid foundation to address our failures head on. That's what I was just saying before. So we need to adapt this habit of looking at failure with our teams to determine what changes are necessary to be more successful in the future, because success only occurs if you keep going. Because once you stop, the whole world is passing you by. Because I always say is like, working in business is like going up and down escalator. Is if you stop, you're not where you are left off. You're like behind. Everybody is going beyond you because you're going backwards when we stop. So we need to move forward. So the opposite of embracing our success is we need, and it's really important to celebrate our future, right? So we have to celebrate our success. So when we achieve our goals, we need to celebrate it with the team, especially the people on our teams that were really responsible for making this stuff happen. We need to acknowledge those employees for the value that they put into helping you to achieve these goals. Sometimes it's bonuses, sometimes it's creating a special reward for high-performing departments. Sometimes it's just like, hey, let's just bring in lunch for the team, or a client that just invited everybody back to his house, and they had a big family barbecue for all the families and all the employees. And it was just a great way of saying thank you to all the people that put the hard work necessary to be able to achieve those goals. So we've gone through a lot of stuff today. And these are the steps of what's necessary that you need to sit down and to focus on to be able to reach your goal. You have to understand what your core focus is, what that big picture, what your why is in your business. We need to understand and tie that into what's our core values, what's our success behaviors of how we're going to achieve these goals. We need to internalize our goals and visualize them and bring some emotion into achieving these goals and make them and help you to make them relevant to why are you doing this in the first place? Why do you have to go through all these little steps to be able to, because it's going to help you get to that big goal down in the future. Hope that makes sense to everybody in there. So what I love everybody to do is if you can take a couple of seconds and say, what was the, maybe that one actionable point that you got out of today's session? If there was anything that you like, or at times if you have any questions at all, I'd love to be able to just post those questions up. That would be great as well. So what was the one thing that one, like I call it, was the BFO, the blind flash of the obvious, that you got out of our session here today? Don't stand still, the world is passing you by. I love that. Yep, that's it. Anybody else have anything else you want to share? Okay. Is really focusing on and really defining your core values and your why to help you get to that next step. All right, so what I want to do is, so what do you do now? What should be your next steps? And there's three different things that we could do. And I've been talking is, if you want to connect with me, please connect with me with LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm also on Facebook. I have a group called Jack's Entrepreneurs, where it's Learn to Earn. And I try to always providing this webinars will be posted up there, other webinars from action coaches, or little video clips from Action Coach founder Brad Sugars would get posted in there, plus a variety of different articles. So use that as another area to be able to learn to earn. Debbie, did you have a question or whatever? Just put that into the question box. I'd appreciate that. And then one of the things I was talking about is Growth Club. So Growth Club isn't just for my clients to step away for their business to create their 90-day actionable plan, but it's open up to the community as well. The next one is coming up in 3 weeks. It's November 1st. It's a full-day workshop, 8:30 to 3:30. You can find more about it from growthclubjacks.com. growthclubjacks.com. And there is a fee for this workshop. It's $250, and it includes lunch. You have a workbook, and then everybody that sits down and registers for it, you will get a prep workbook to do it. And then I'm also going to, as a bonus, I'm going to give everybody a free 1-hour phone coaching session to review the workbook and make sure you get everybody in. You're ready for that day of learning if you want to do. My next webinar coming up in next month is going to be sales oriented. It's turning your sales reps into rock stars. And you can find more information and register for that webinar at actioncoachseminars.com. That's the place to go to find all of our workshops and seminars on that as well. That's coming up November 8th. And then the last thing is, anybody is interested in having a discussion and learning a little bit more about coaching, or if you have some bottlenecks that you want to see that you overcome, I'll offer you a free coaching strategy session, and you can go to free-strategy-session.com, and it's go ahead. There'll be a little questionnaire about your business to fill out, and then I will get back with you, and we'll schedule that your free phone strategy session, maybe a half hour, depending on what we need with there. So I hope that was something that everybody was able to get some good stuff out of. Please promote some of these events to others that you know. You will be getting should be able to get a link to be able to, if you want to rewatch this, so look for that in your email. It'll also be posted up on my website under Action Coach Webinars. again, with that, I want to thank you very much for coming and attending. And it's like, I really appreciate all your comments there. And again, if you need to, please reach out to me, either on Facebook, LinkedIn, or just Steve Goranson at actioncoach.com is my web or my email address. So thank you very much and have an awesome day, great weekend. Take care. Bye.